Hey, good people. This is a quick message to listeners who are not from Nepal and thinking this is not relevant to you. Maybe give this a chance because the conversation which happens are relatable, I think, if you identify as a woman from any part of the world. For example, if your country is a patriarchal society, this should be relatable. Misogyny, yes. Misinterpretation of the term feminism, yes. All of that and so much more. And to the listeners who are men, this should be important to us as well because a lot of the time we do not listen. One of the panelists points out the least we can do is listen. How we can be a better ally, advocate, take action for equal and equitable world. So here is the discussion for today. Heyo, good people. Welcome back to another episode of My Good Place. I am your host Niraj, and today's topic of discussion is Women of Nepal, the Boss Ladies. Initially, the title was Women of Nepal, what was, is, and will be. But throughout the episode, you'll realize why this new title suits better for the episode. I will get to all of that, but quickly, if you're new to the podcast and wondering what the hell am I talking about or what the hell we talk about, first, welcome. And in this podcast, where we try to create a collective good place through conversation, we try to get diverse ideas, experiences, perspective from different socio ethnic cultural backgrounds and try to discuss my good place, their good place, your good place, and importantly our good place. So if all of that sounds good, welcome and hit that follow or subscribe wherever you're tuning in from. I appreciate you. And to my returning listener, after last week's discussion, or a couple weeks ago I think, last week I took a break. After the discussion on counterculture, I hope it inspired you all to take that step forward towards whatever you aspire to become, So, and I appreciate all the feedback and responses I get after each discussion. So, thank you very much. I will keep working on making this content podcast better, okay? Now, this episode is also going to be the only first part of two-parter discussion. So, without further ado, let me introduce you to my panel on the topic. Bhivshika Bhandari, Sonika Manandar, Shriya Singh Dhakal, Nama Limbu, and helping me moderate, who quickly became the hybrid of moderator and panelist, Akriti Maharjan. Thank you. Thank you so much, guys, for joining for this podcast. Today's topic is Women of Nepal, what was, is, and will be. And today we'll discuss the past, present, and the future, which is kind of, you can take it from the title itself. But I appreciate you all giving your time. We are dealing with 4 different time zones. We are here from all parts of the world. But I want to start with introduction. I want to come to Sonika first. Sonika, if you want to tell more about yourself, what do you do? And let's start with that.
Thank you, Neeraj. First of all, very privileged to be part of this podcast with wonderful ladies here. Thank you for inviting me. I'm based in Nepal and I run a startup in Nepal. It's a fintech platform, so you can call me a social entrepreneur or you can call me an impact entrepreneur because my background is technical. So I'm a computer engineer by training, but I think I like to call myself a social entrepreneur by nature. So that's what I am. And I run a women-led fintech platform here in Nepal, and that also works for women micro entrepreneurs. So that's what I am and what I do. Very short.
Thank you, Sonika. I'm gonna next come to Shriya. Hi, Shriya. If you want to tell us about yourself, what you do.
Hi, Neeraj. First off, thank you for inviting me. I'm really grateful to to be able to join with all these wonderful ladies. And talking about myself, I'm Shreya Singh Dhakal. I am a PhD student in computer science at North Carolina State University. And apart from being a PhD student, I am also the founder and a co-advisor for Nepali Women in Computing, which is a community of Nepali women technologists around the globe. And what we try to do with Nepali women in computing is, bring forward stories of Nepali women technologists. And not just that, we also are working to become a global resource that Nepali women technologists can use to advance in their career in technology. And yeah, that is pretty much about me. I am an advocate of diversity and inclusion in technology and a natural language processing researcher.
Thank you, Shreya. Nama, I'm going to come to you. If you want to introduce yourself, tell us what you do.
Hi, guys, everybody. Thank you so much for inviting me to this podcast, first of all. So my name is Nama Limbu. I am from the UK, but of course, Nepali heritage. Professionally, I am a safeguarding social worker. I work for the government as a civil servant. It's a concept where it's a very westernized concept. Let's say I work with the vulnerable families. Their vulnerabilities rely on the social health, not mainly the medical help. So yeah, with children and making sure that they're safe and they're protected by the state as well as their family members. And on the side, I run a little media kind of my creative outlet called Hammer Insight, where we advocate or talk about the Nepali generation, the first UK Nepali generation, and just talk about our culture and how we identify ourselves as the first gen British Nepali. Thank you.
Thank you, Nama. That was wonderful. I'm going to come to Vipshika. If you want to introduce yourself and also tell us what you do.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you again. It's so lovely to see these amazing group of women coming together. And I am a sucker for women coming together and organizing. So I feel like this is some sort of space to do that. My name is Bivishika, and currently, I just graduated from the University of Oxford with a degree in nature, society, and environmental governance. My academic background is in gender and women's studies from Hollins University in Roanoke, Virginia. And professionally, I've been involved in running social enterprises like Hamri Baini, where I was involved in creating respectable employment opportunities for women from different marginalized backgrounds. And while working with women at Hamri Baini, which was at Himalayan Climate Initiative, I realized that there are larger interconnections with the environment that we need to explore more, as it contributes to women's subjugation. So that sort of got me interested to explore connections with climate and environment, and that is what brought me to my master's degree. I'm very much interested to work in the development sphere, in the nexus of women's empowerment and the social dimensions of climate and environment. So I am looking forward to our conversations here today, and hopefully take this forward after the conversations end today as well. Lovely to meet everyone.
Thank you so much. And finally, my co-host, and actually, to be honest, this would not have been possible without her, because she gave me this courage to let's do it, So I want to welcome Akriti. Akriti, if you want to talk about yourself and tell us what you do.
Neeraj, you're giving me too much credit. This was all you. So thank you for really bringing us together and uniting us. I think when women unite, it's a really special bond and there's really special things. So I love seeing all the women that I have been talking to and listening to. So it's really nice to meet all of you guys. So my name is Akriti Marjan. I am currently from Sacramento, California, but originally from Kathmandu, Nepal. And professionally, I'm in two different spaces, but I guess they both coincide in a way. currently I work as a human resources, so in recruiting, for a nonprofit organization that litigates, advocates, and does policy work for people with disability in the state of California. And there I'm hiring attorneys and working in making sure that a diversity, equity, and inclusion of that organization reflects the clients that we work for, the intersectionality of the clients that we work for. So I work on that every single day, and that's kind of the headspace that I go into whenever I'm working. Personally, I have founded a nonprofit organization called Project Kami. I love talking about immigrants and immigrant stories. I think it makes us unique, but also very similar in many ways because of all the struggles, but also all the happiness that we share from coming from a country and like, or really flourishing in the Western world, and living the American dream, or whatever we call that. So with Project Kami, we do a lot of community organizing, and helping individuals flourish. So I do a lot of resume and cover letter work, and we do a lot of fundraising as well. So in many ways, we're trying to impact and bring communities of immigrants, whether you're first generation, second generation, third generation. I think you have your own unique story if you recognize someone that is in your family that's an immigrant. So just the impact that you have, the mental health space that you go into, and the patriarchy and all that, the intersectionality of that you go into as well. So it's a very interesting subject for me, and I'm hoping to grow that into a bigger platform, hoping to reach the world, but we'll start with United States of America first. But that's a little bit about me. Thanks, Neeraj.
Thank you, Akriti. Definitely one step at a time. We just got to take that baby step, but we have to take that first step, and which all of you have. And I appreciate that so much about you all. So I want to kick it off with the question, since we are all Nepali in this panel and Nepali women. I'm going to start with Sonika. What does being a Nepali woman mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, there can be a lot of different kinds of answer to that, right? But I feel very fortunate for being a Nepali woman. Otherwise, I wouldn't be Sonika that other people knows me today for, right? So that's why I feel myself very fortunate. But having said that, I would also like to link that to why I became what I am today. Is because I saw a lot of problems in Nepal, and this is something I always say to everyone who asks me what is the motivation for me to stay in Nepal, or for me to do what I do is I am usually very excited looking at the problems, because as soon as I see the problem, then I feel that there's something that I can do, right? So that's something that is really fueling my motivation from day one. For example, I mean, right now I'm leading Alloy as a co-founder and CTO, but then back in 2013, I saw these blind kids, and then I thought, okay, we should do something for them. I mean, I'm a computer engineer, and there was one kid called Madan, and the first time I met him, he asked me, what do I do? And I told him I'm a computer engineer. And he was very small then, 2013. How I had no idea how blinds operate computer. All I knew was I can look at the screen and I can use the computer, and that's how I use computer, right? So that time I thought, oh, I can empower these blind kids how to use computer. so that they can really see the world through internet and computer. So that's how I started teaching myself how blind uses computer, and established a computer lab for them, started teaching them. And the same kid today tells me that he asked me the question that if blinds can become a computer engineer, right? So the transition of the question that started with if blind can use computer to if blind can become a computer engineer has been really, really transformative for me as a person as well. And again, linking that back to the problems, right? I mean, even today, I'm doing what I can for the blind kids. I mean, there's a Sunne Pustak called, it's not a podcast, but I think Neeraj knows about it. So I record the book for them because Braille books are very, very unavailable and very, very expensive for them. So little things like this, right? I mean, from the very, 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 very individual level, what you can do, I think I wouldn't be able to think like that or to see problem in a different way if I were not a Nepali woman, right? So that's what it means for me to become a Nepali woman. And again, with Alloy, I mean, not just me as a Nepali woman, but then the women micro entrepreneurs, them being a Nepali woman and them, facing the issues that they're facing today, and me being able to empower them to solve that or giving them tools and equipment to really grow and shine in whatever they do is something I feel very proud of. So yeah, that's my
Thank you, Sanika. Definitely. Just the first line what you said, like you wouldn't be Sonika if you're not a Nepali, So that resonated a lot with me. So I'm gonna come to Shreya. Shreya, what does being a Nepali woman mean to you?
Yes, to me personally, being a Nepali woman means being resilient. I believe I'm someone, who is able to handle really difficult situations and really recover from difficult situations pretty quick. And this is a skill that I was passed on by, women around me, like my great grandmother, my Amoy, my grandmother Muma, and, my Ama, my sister Siri. All of them are like such powerful women who were like put in really difficult situations throughout their life, and they were just growing, learning, adapting to the situation. And luckily for me, I did not have a lot of troubles, like challenges growing up. But once I moved away from home and came to the US, like so many things just started happening. Like, I was in a completely new place. For the first year, it was really difficult to really, even like live here, be like having to cook for yourself, like do everything for yourself was something I've never done. And for the first year, I thought it was impossible, and it was really difficult. But all this lives that these women around me have lived really gave me that confidence. And like this stories actually spoke to me, saying that you can do it. Like if they could do and live with all those challenges that they faced, this is nothing. Like you're just away from home, and your problem is so little compared to what they've lived. And after almost like 2.5 years here in the US, I feel like I have lived pretty well, like compared to what my state of mind was in the first year. Like really scared of school, really scared of talking in school, asking questions, and like pretty much scared about everything around me. And now to a person who's like guiding the younger ones to it's okay to be vulnerable, it's okay to be scared. We all are scared, and being able to come out and share, like just share all of my fears with my younger one, like younger generation of girls from Nepal, and not just Nepal for that matter of fact, like all agents and international students here at my school. And like just being able to do that, I think resilience is what I think of when I think of Nepali women, and resilience is what I think of when I think of myself, because I really fight through my like fears, my own insecurities and all vulnerabilities, like to be where I am today. And yeah, so that is a word that comes to my mind, and that is a quality I associate myself with when I think of myself as a Nepali woman.
Thank you, Shreya. And like how you looked up at other Nepali women and who they inspired you to become who you are today. Hopefully, we can pass it to the other women in our community. And if our stories can change one life, that's pretty amazing and resilience. Yeah. Thank you. Nama, I'm gonna come to you. And what does being a Nepali woman mean to you?
I'm quite happy I'm following Shreya on that point, because I think for me, being a Nepali woman means growth. That's the biggest thing, mainly because growing up in the UK, the Nepali woman I saw were my mom's generation. And if I add a little bit of history, a lot of Nepali families, majority of them that I was surrounded by, ended up being in the UK through the British Army route. So they were very dependent on their husbands, their partners. So I saw a lot of Nepali women being dependent on their husband, and therefore they were very resilient, just like you said, Shreya, very resilient, had to kind of just suck it all up, move to this new country, don't even know the language, don't know how it works. If their husbands were abusive or, very controlling, they just had to kind of get on with it. It's for our children, it's for a better future. And seeing, not having that, that idol to look up to, well, when I was young, not seeing Nepali women be the boss lady that we now see, I was, when I was young, I was like, oh, I want to be like my dad. That was me. I was like, I want to be like a man. I want to be like my dad. He's strong. He's head of the family. He's the boss. I want to be in control of my life. But then while growing up, you kind of see like, wait, hold on. Like my mom is a boss in itself, but it's that growth that my generation needs to bring, that one step above, kind of go further with the education opportunities we've got, by our parents having that sacrifice. So I think it's like the growth towards independence, is what makes me a Nepali woman in the UK, let's say, from my experience. But I completely agree with what you're saying, Shreya. Like resilience is a big thing for my parents, my mum's generation, I would like to say. So for me, being a Nepali woman, growth is number one. We need to move forward, especially for the sacrifices our parents have made for us to move abroad. Yeah.
Thank you, Nama. And shout out to all the moms, all the resilient moms, right? They are just amazing humans. They just resilient. That's the word. Okay, I'm gonna come to Bipshika. Bipshika, what does being a Nepali woman mean to you?
I think firstly I want to echo what everybody just mentioned, and really say that being a Nepali woman is the lived experience that comes with living in a very patriarchal Nepali society with a lot of challenges both in personal and public spaces, and I personally think it comes with a lot of strength and sorrows. It is really the amalgamation of all those social, economic, environmental, political, varied experiences that each of us have, which also varies based on our different social identifiers, from like caste, ethnicity, age, etc. And some way, I feel like we all have different experiences, we go through different experiences, we see things very differently as well. So I feel like even if you ask me what a Nepali woman like means, it's not just me as an individual woman that I'm talking about. I think it's always amalgamation of experiences of all the other Nepali women, together, coming together and forming this identity, I guess, of who a Nepali woman is. There is no obviously right answer to this. Like, you boy when I say you're a Nepali woman, and if you don't have this, and you're not a Nepali woman. If you have a vagina, you are a Nepali woman. If you don't have a vagina, you're not a Nepali woman. It also doesn't work like that. It really means having to fight in this body and to live in this body, because we face violence in different forms, and we are also personally violated in different forms as well. And so all our lived experiences are different, and it also means invisibility. Like, although we are a group of women who are in this discussion today, but then we obviously don't represent everybody either. So it is also women who are not present here, but women who are also made invisible because of their lived experiences or different like social identifiers as well. So, but all in all, like, being a Nepali woman is, I think, being a fighter in each and every step of the way. It can be personal, like, being empowered and living in this body, and it can also be very political, like getting citizenship in the name of mother, or being financially independent, or just getting justice for all the violence and injustices that you've experienced. And not just today in this generation, but then there's also like a lot of intergenerational like violence and oppression and pain that we pass on. So I feel like it is really a mixture of all of that. But and for some it means more fight than for other women as well. So I think it's a big question, but this is what I like to say. Like, if there was one word, I'd say it's being a fighter.
Definitely, it's always has been this constant battle fighting for just the regular things that you want to do, and that is not right. And also, like you also like you said, um, everybody has a different life path and different stage of their life, and they are not necessarily in the same position. They don't have the similar privileges, and we have to fight for this equity to give everybody where their potential can take them. So thank you for sharing. And finally, I'm going to come to Akriti. And Akriti, if you want to give your opinion on being a Nepali woman and maybe summarize this.
Yeah, definitely. I love the keywords that I can take away from just this conversation: being made visible, strong, resilient, being a fighter. And everything that all of you said is something that I always think about. I am in a tug of war between two worlds, and I have been since I came to the US. Up until 12, I was a Nepali, and then after 12, I had to figure out a identity of being a Nepali American. And what that meant for me was coming home to a very patriarchal society, right? Like coming home where my parents are stuck in the mindset of being the Nepali world in 2004, when the Nepali world has already progressed in some ways. And then going to school and having to be independent and having to have your mind of your own, to think on your own in your own 2 feet. So it's a tug of war that I've always been in. I've always been a rebel. Uh, it, like ever since, you know, I remember nursery school. I remember I think it was like the week, and everyone was in their uniform, and I went to school without wanting to wear the uniform, and I was like on the table directing everyone to say ABCD, right? But then I came here, and there was this quietness that came over me, and I think there was that tug of war, just because my mom was teaching me to be, after 8 or 9, to be a woman, and what that meant. And that was in the kitchen and making sure that I knew how to cook. And it's unique to see even my mother's growth, because like Nama was saying, she came here without not knowing any English at all. She went to school here, and then it's so nice to see my mom's like kind of world progress. So like when she first came here, it was like arranged marriage, you're gonna go home and get someone. Now to you'll find someone, or my sister will find someone, whatever. Like, you guys are independent women, you have to make your own money and stand up on your own feet. So I think the change of mindset of just being a rebel, and my thing always is being a Nepali woman in this time is the opportunity to change mindset, to break barriers, to love and honor our culture, but still call out the bullshit that we women deal with in our day-to-day life, because it's in the name of the culture, or it's in the name of the religion, when many of the things that were, you know, mixed into that or binded to women was this patriarchal, you know, man-made rules that you know, made us to be this vulnerable, can't do anything for ourselves kind of identity that we carry ourselves with, like even with my mom or whatnot. So I've had many, you know, I think many revealing things about myself where I can be this vulnerability of myself, but I have to be a rebel. Like I have to be in this path to really break barriers. And I think so for me, you know, I think breaking barriers, that's also in your own way. I don't think you have to do this humongous thing. You know, if you refuse to cook for your abusive husband, or if you get out of a relationship of an abusive husband, that's breaking barriers in your own, because then you're not letting that cycle continue in your family, right? So breaking barriers can mean many different things. So for me, I think now Nepali women, because of the education, because of how far we have gotten, I think it's about breaking barriers in your own way and going away from that mindset and stereotype. So, you know, really loved everything you had to say. And so that's a little bit of what I have to input. Um, I did have another question that I wanted to ask the panel. You know, we talked about, you know, who we are as Nepali women, but where do you see Nepali society heading in terms of women empowerment and rights? So I'll come to Sonika. And yeah, so what do you think about that?
That's a very good question. I mean, I am a very positive person, and I do see the society moving into the right path. I mean, very much about sharing my own experiences from my family, right? I mean, my mom and dad, I always tell them that they are the people from the future. So I'm a 90s kid. I mean, literally 90, so 1990, right? So back then, I mean, still the society is very, very much patriarchal, and sons are, you know, sons are more preferable than girl child. But that time I was about to be aborted because my dad thought I would be a son. Because he already had two sons and he didn't want a son. So I come from a very, very feminist family. There are no restrictions that I've experienced in my whole life. I mean, there might have been some restrictions for my brothers, big brothers, but then not for me, right? And that have really shaped my path. And my identity. And I heard Nama saying earlier that your role model was a dad, so you wanted to be strong, so you wanted to be like a dad. But my role model really was my mother. She was so independent. I mean, I never saw her cry. I mean, that's not a good thing. That's not what I'm saying. But I saw her very strong, and I saw her independent from you know, from day one. Well, whenever I see her, I see as a strong and independent woman. And she was very entrepreneurial. I mean, my dad was also entrepreneurial. My mom was also entrepreneurial. Whenever the family was in crisis, she would, you know, do something that really lifts up the family, not just emotionally, but also like financially, right? So she was that strong. So I am very proud to be brought up in such family and to see them as my role model. And I think because of that, from a very early age that I've seen that, I do see what happened in my family back then, like 31 years ago. It's actually happening now. So that's why I see like it's moving in the positive direction, right? I mean, of course, there are a lot of problems. For example, you know, the systems, traditional systems, and just I'm not just talking about the cultures and gender norms and stuff, but the gender norms that's really restricting or limiting the potential of the women in today's age is still there, which is why I see a lot of women, and not just women, right? I mean, men and women together working towards the path to really break that shackle. Sometimes it's visible shackle, sometimes it's invisible shackle, but still there. But then I also see a lot of hands coming, joining together to really, break that chain for women altogether. So I definitely see we are moving in the right direction. Having said that, I'm not saying that there are not problems at all, but then we are definitely doing something about that problem, and that's something really motivating.
Thank you, Sonika. Yeah, no, it's I think we are heading towards the right direction. I think, Nita's here. Many guys that I know in my life are very much supportive of everything that I do. And, I think what men have to know now, I think, is that us women are fighting, not them. Like a lot of times it's like men feel like we're attacking them. Like, you are the person that's doing this to me. And I always tell like my boyfriend or like my guy friends that I have, I'm like, I'm fighting the whole patriarchy system. Like, it's not you. It could be my mother that's putting that patriarchy role in me. It could be my aunt. It could be the society. It's not just men, right? It's the idea of the fact that women have to be a certain way. So it's definitely something nice to see now that we're hopefully heading towards a direction where men and women can see that we're both equal and we both add values to each other's relationship in many ways. And so nice to hear about your mom. I think it's so key to have strong women to grow up with. So thank you so much for sharing. I'll come to you, Shreya, now. The question again is, where do you see Nepali society is heading in terms of women empowerment and rights?
Yeah, I definitely agree with Sonika and you, like that, things are changing for good. Yes, times for Nepali women, they're changing for good. But we still have a long way to go, like a very long way to go. And, we need more conversations in the space of Nepali women rights and their independence, like, in that space. And, yes, there are, like, when I look up on the internet, there are more conversations in this space. But I also see that, the women talking about their problems or their rights or fighting for what they as Nepali women, like where they stand in the society and all of this, like all these women fighting, like they come from a very closed group. And usually these women are like, who have had the privileges to, like, good education, good family background, like a very stable socio-economic background. And I believe like all of us here are pretty much like, we all come from that particular group. Yes, we are holding the conversations, but I also like think that a lot of Nepal is still like not there. Like they have not even started, they're not even on level 0. Like as for us, we are on level 0. We know we have to do, we understand what are the things that we need and what are the things we need to fight for. But there is also a lot of Nepali women who are still like, living in Chowgot, like for that matter. And there are also a lot of Nepali women, like in a lot of villages in Nepal, where like one woman gets married to the entire like men in a family. So there's still women like that. There's so much we need to do. And we are like, times are changing, but sadly, like from where I see it, it's still like for that particular group of women. And there is so much more we need to do so that this change is more inclusive, and this change is not just for women of Kathmandu or Bhaktapur or the valley or like all these big places, but for women of the entire country. And for that, we really need to like educate ourselves on like the actual problems of these women in different parts of Nepal, because their challenges are like way bigger than ours, to be very honest. They don't even have the fundamental rights to live. There are so many women, like there is a village called Gangfedi, which is like a couple of hours away from the capital. It's in Nuwakot, and girls and women there have like they are fighting for their basic rights to live. They are being sold, and there's so much like there's so much that we need to do for like not just us, but like women who do not come from our socioeconomic background or who do not have the privileges that we have. So yeah, like times are changing, but we need to like do more, and we really need to educate ourselves more.
Yes, thank you, Shreya. That was so amazing. I always talk about understanding your privilege, and that privilege could mean education, gender, wealth, or whatever it means. And it's it's important for us to not hate or think less of someone because they don't have the same thinking capacity as us or whatever, however we think. It's about, what can we educate themselves, I mean, what we can educate them in. But I think it's not even really about education either. I think it's about just coming together and expressing what you have learned, and just having that conversation. Because I think many times when we sit there and like educate as well, they don't come from that same headspace because they haven't had role models like us or maybe education like us, right? So um but you said is right, is many people come from different parts of the Nepali diaspora, in a however capacity, whatever they have learned. So for us, it's really important to really be open and open arms to any women who want to maybe learn beyond, and that's definitely something we need to do. So I'm now coming to you, Nama. The question again is, where do you see Nepali society is heading in terms of women empowerment and rights?
I think it's definitely going forward, but there are still definitely steps being taken back. I mean, for me, growing up, I used to idolize my dad. I wanted to be that alpha. But as I'm getting older, living my life, experiencing womanhood, like, I've that has shifted to like kind of, I idolize my mom now. I'm like, wow, power with vulnerability. That's the main statement I would like to say. But I can't really speak much for Nepal because I haven't really been there. But I do see a lot in social media with activist movements happening, with small I don't know if it's organization or NGOs, voicing their opinions, holding rallies and all that, which is amazing to see. In such a small country with so much like patriarchy in it, for women to stand up, I think it's amazing, because I'm the type of feminist, I'm saying we have to be loud. Making noise, getting angry means result, not being quiet. But that's just me. However, sometimes I think it's kind of touching on what Shreya's saying. I can speak about the UK. My experience is there's a lot of people like me, my friends, my acquaintances, where we do talk about women empowerment in the UK Nepali society, and we're like, we should start questioning our parents, our elderlies. Why do we do this? Why is our culture like this? Why is XYZ? Why are these rituals being done? A lot of the answers we get is, oh, it's just been done in generations. But we need to ask why, we need to understand why. But I've seen a lot of girls, women, females, saying, yes, let's ask, why is it? But then there's a lot of females who are, or women say, oh, it's fine, it's not a problem to me. And I just wish, you don't need to agree with what I think, but I think as women, we all need to be able to question why and actually understand why we're doing what we're doing as a Nepali woman, especially as a woman as well. But if we're talking about Nepali people, then, because there's a lot of things, like if I give an example, marriage, in marriage, Nepali women, we have to do so many rituals, like the sindur, the Mangal Sutra, the Kutama Dogne. I think some tribes have like kutako pani dhuera khane, and I'm like, okay, I'm sure there was reasons back in the days, but tell me why. If you want to complete those rituals in your marriage, at least know why you're doing what you're doing. Don't do it just for the sake of culture. I mean, I love Nepali culture, aspects of it, not everything. But yeah, I think it's going in the right direction. Personally, I wish it was going a bit faster if we were all louder, but we can't all be at the same pace. So as long as it's moving forward and not 10 steps back, we're all happy, and yeah, we're going in the right direction.
Thank you, Noma. Yeah, I always think about everyone's action in the sense of like being a droplet in the vast ocean of change that we're trying to bring. And no, what you said is right. I question my friends a lot too about what they do and why aren't they not arguing with their mom and dad the way I do about even the little tiniest thing. And their mindset always is, I just don't want to argue. And I'm just like, I don't want that to be also the daughters that are going to come after us to be like, oh, because my mom never argued, I don't have to. And that cycle continues. So, no, what you said is right. We have to have the opportunity to sit there and question each other and be able to then maybe hopefully change some progress. But we're all being a droplet in that vast ocean. So, let's just keep being that, and hopefully the ocean is now full with possibilities and opportunities for many women. Now I'm going to come to Vishika. The question for you again is, where do you see Nepali society is heading in terms of women empowerment and rights?
Thanks again, and I do feel again that this is such a vast question, and really would like to echo some of what Shreya was also saying earlier. To really answer this question, like, we have to talk about who is the Nepali women that we're talking about in this conversation. We're a very diverse group of people with different lived experiences, and my answer is not going to represent everyone, and none of our answers should be universalized as all Nepali women's experiences either. So we're only giving like a partial answer and a partial hint to some of our lived realities, because for some of us, we're like still fighting our internalized sexism. For some of us, we're still fighting with our families. We're fighting for our financial independence. We're fighting to be empowered in our bodies and to be sexually liberated. And where a lot of us are still fighting in a lot of political spaces as well. Even if you say that yes, we're doing better, we have 33% of representation in our House of Parliament, but there's still 67% space occupied by all the Dhaka Topi men, and these positions are just very tokenistic positions. And if we really talk about it, they don't mean as much. And women in these positions have also not been able to do as much or represent all of our lived experiences either. Personally also, Nama was talking about khutta dhune chalan, and which still happens in Hindu weddings, where I could be very wrong, but I think it's the idea is you wash the feet of a woman who's getting married, considering that this woman is a virgin woman, and touching the feet and drinking the water of a virgin woman will take you straight to heaven. So these are the beliefs that we adhere to. And like you said, as long as we are performing and practicing these patriarchal beliefs and practices, knowingly or unknowingly, we've been doing this with reason, without reason. I believe there's no rational reason for these practices, but as long as we are performing it, and as long as we are accepting it without question and doing it and passing on to other generations, then I feel like that is definitely going to keep us behind. So really, to answer, like, where is women's rights and empowerment going, I don't know. This is I don't think I'll be able to say, because it is happening right now. This is not happening like in the future, or this is not going to happen in the past, but it is happening as we go, as we talk, as we organize, as we raise our voices, as we, are like, working in spaces like IT, and as we're working in spaces like finance, and as long as we have, I guess, allies like Neeraj, hosting like events like this and bringing women together. So, these are some like really good examples of how like some of us women have, been able to create like safe and good enough spaces for us and good allies. But I would not be able to say for everybody, and I would also not be able to go. All I can say and really hope and work towards is a better lived experiences for women, um, for myself, for women in the future. But having said that, being very mindful of not not falling in the heroism, trap, and not really glorifying, and not really just sticking to performative activism, but actually, like doing something by just, being comfortable, being empowered in this body, in the spaces that we occupy. So I'm sorry, I will not be able to give you a correct answer or an answer to this, but these are just some of my thoughts.
Yeah, and thoughts are never wrong or right. I think thoughts are
Mm-hmm.
your own lived experience as well. And, I always talk about, or I always think about how every experience is not monolithical. We have this like generalization of like, oh, Nepali women are this way, right? Like even in TikToks, like you have these like men or women talking about Nepali women having attitude and all this, and they're like, we're not a monolithical like our experiences are not lived. Like I could probably relate to some of like all of you in some format, but my lived experience is also different in terms of like how my mindset works and how I am grown up. So no, what you said again is your own thought and what your lived experiences are, and that's never true or wrong. So thank you so much for sharing. Now I'm going to come to Neeraj. We talk about women and where do we see ourselves going, and I hate the word allyship. I Because it's this like I don't know, like a performative term too, like, oh yeah, I'm for the women, but then it's also just in the words of it, it's never in the action of it. So for me, what I want to ask you, as in your own experience, not that you're speaking for the whole Nepali men, right, but in your own experience, what do what can men do to be an advocate of change for women empowerment and rights in the States or wherever they are?
So first off, I want to start with thanking everybody with the amazing answer, like Sonika with breaking shackles, or Bipshika just like talking about the representation and Nepali parliament and all that, and like everybody, it was all amazing. And coming from, so I call myself a feminist. I am a big advocate for women rights, and what can men do is start from your house, start from your families, and like the culture where we've been talking about, this Kurtatune culture and all that, and just call them out. This is not a comfortable position for a woman. Like I don't want my sister just kurta dogging and all that shit, I mean, she is equal. We've raised my sister, my family has raised my sister equal to me, and she's not going to go to the or if she chooses to go to another man's house, she is, if she bows down, that's not right. She is equal. I mean, so start from your house and start taking action, having these conversations. If something doesn't feel right, call it out. And I think that's where we can start. And then once you start taking those action, if one person looks up to you and tries to do the same thing in their family, I think and like Akriti said, we can only be that one droplet, and there will be more droplets which is gonna fill that ocean And I like I always say, I tell Akriti, we're gonna bring a fucking tsunami and just gonna break this patriarchy that we have in our society still. So yeah, let's start small, start from your family, and then make it I guess bigger, grow bigger, and just say I stand with you and I stand by you, and take it in action. Just don't say it to say it, you know. So that's my answer. All right. Yes, I see Nama has a question or a follow-up.
Yeah, I just want to add, like, I think it's great what you've said, like, advocate, support the women rights and everything. But I mean, one thing I would just like to add, if men really do want to help, just listen, just listen. Because a lot of times, I'm very vocal. I talk to my guy friends, I talk to guys online through social media when they reply to my very strong feminist post, as they would like to call it. I don't know what a strong feminist is. It's just feminist, full stop. But my strong feminist posts, apparently, they just ask questions. They're like, "Oh, why do you feel like this? Why do you feel like this?" I'm like, "I'm telling you, this is how I feel. Is that just not enough? Like, just listen. You don't need to." Listen, because it's our experience. If I was telling you like how I felt when I went to the hospital, I got into a car, went down M3, got to the hospital, you're just listening. Just listen like that. Just listen to our problems. I think you don't need to even do something. Just listening is good enough, I think, more than listening and then trying to be like XYZ. But yeah, just listen. That's my one droplet.
Appreciate that droplet. And I see Akriti wants to add something too. Akriti.
Yeah, I sometimes in the word of feminism, I wanted to add this piece. Sometimes we're just asking for the basic rights. It's not just the feminist idea of this like broad, like, oh, we're trying to make the world change. It's just the basic human rights of a woman that we're asking for. And when we vocalize something that's not in the society, we're like, oh, she's a feminist. It's like, no, just asking for the basic rights of being equitable to you, so we can stand on our own feet and say, you know what, we're being treated properly. And I just, even like in Clubhouse or whenever we do something and we vocalize and like, oh, feminist kuragoru, like feminist this, and what about the men? It's like Mama said, just chill, just listen to what we're trying to say, and all you can do at that time is listen and think about what is happening. That's all we need you to do. Like, I don't need you to speak for me, speak on behalf of me. I just need you to listen and not always have this tag next to me saying, oh, she's a big feminist. It's sometimes people are just asking for their basic rights.
Thank you, Akriti. I see Bipshika, and then I'm gonna come to Sonika, so I'll let Bipshika go first.
Thanks. Well, I just add a little comment on what Akriti was saying, that you said like sometimes we're asking for like basic human rights. I feel like it's not sometimes, it's all the time. That is exactly, that's just it. That's all that there is. It's not sometimes, all the time, and that is it. And that is what has to be like listened. That is what has to be represented. And like what Nama said, yes, listen everywhere. Like men, if we're talking about like earlier, what Anish was saying, what like men should be doing, like it should be from an everyday practice and conversation, like listening in your most personal spaces, listening in bed, listening if you are in like political spaces and making policies. Listening has to be in all these spaces. Yeah, I just wanted to comment.
No, thank you. That's so much appreciated. Sonika, I'm gonna come to you next.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying the overall conversation. I just wanted to quickly add some of my bits to whatever the discussion is going. I want to add why feminism is not just us wanting the equal world, right? I mean, for example, if you only want women to cook, then if one day, I mean, in case all the women are wiped out of the world, then the men's are going to die, right? That means it's not something's wrong with whatever's going. So I think it's not just us asking for the equal world, but I think it's for the better of the men and women all together, that the equal world would be better for all. And I cannot, press enough how Akriti started earlier about, feminism is not about hating men, or it's not a threat for men, right? It's just having that balance of two wheel of a cart, moving towards the same direction, moving towards the same better future.
Thank you, Sonika. And Bipshika?
Yes, also to that, Sonika, like it's very true. It is really for everyone. And I think one thing that we also sort of have to change in our like interactions and conversations and language, how we speak, is also to move away from speaking just in terms of this binary of like men and women, and saying that this is what like feminism like represents. It is about women fighting for equal rights and being same as men, but we've just like start talking about start to talk about from beyond these two, gender like binary only. Because what, like what Akriti was saying earlier, like we are always talking about basic human rights for everybody, and we are like, this is a social, political, economic, environmental rights for everybody, and this movement is recognizing that people who identify themselves as women, who were born they don't have to be born with a vagina, but then anybody who identifies themselves as a woman is represented in this like larger like movement as well. And it is about liberation for all, individuals who see themselves as being part of this movement. And it's quite inclusive in that sense as well.
And Akriti?
Yeah, no, she added what I was trying to say is in that conversation, even with women, we have to make sure that we think about the LGBTQIA plus community. We have to think about the disability community. We have to, when we're talking about inclusivity, they are also who are all in my mind as well. And we don't have to just sit here and say, being feminist right is just the ones that were born or ones that are able-bodied, quotation mark, whatever that means, that have to get these rights. We have to be inclusive with everyone that is born, because they themselves have, like everyone was saying, the human rights to live in the way they want to live and the way they choose to live. And we should all be able to honor that, because at the end of the day, they are who they are, and it's not really hurting us, and it's not hurting the way we want to live life. So you can have your thoughts and you can have your perception, but if someone chooses to live a certain way, or someone is born because they don't have a choice to live a certain way, respect that and honor that. So that was a bit of my ad.
No, definitely. Thank you, Akriti. And if anybody else to add anything about this idea, this feminism, just feel free to raise your hand. But I think we also need to change the textbooks, and we need to change the things that is taught to the kids while growing up, and that will really begin the change. Because I was listening. So one quick anecdote about my personal life. Like one of the biggest feminists I know is my sister, and I learned so much from her about feminism itself. And she, on her podcast, she mentioned like how in our textbook while growing up we learned father is the breadwinner of the family, and it puts father in that role, like he is supposed to be that. And that's where this patriarchal idea starts, and you're supposed to take the lead, you're the charge and all that. And it I think the movement of feminism actually serves men too, because it doesn't put that pressure on men. And going back to what Akriti asked me earlier, I just want to add one quick thing. Is also like whenever people think men are feminists, I think they think it's you're more homosexual, and you don't have to be a homosexual man only. Like, I'm a heterosexual man and I am a feminist. So yeah, I just wanted to put that. And Nama.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, when you said father, it just, a point came into my head, like feminism is for both, you know, I mean for everyone, let's not even say both, like cutting out the binary. It's for everyone because there was a podcast or a video I was watching, and it was about how, so I work in social care, so I work with a lot of like adoptions as well. So when we're going to court and we're going to get we're trying to get an adoption through, right, for a vulnerable child, I want to say 9 or 8 times out of 10, we assume the child is going to go to the mother. And I'm like, why are we assuming this? The research states for any child, for to fully thrive, is that they need to have at least one stable carer. Carer doesn't have a gender, doesn't have anything. A carer can be a trans, all of that, right? But when we're going to court, like in, you know, where there's people who are very well educated, top of their game, and they're saying, okay, so this child is going to go to the mother, and we're like, no, the father. You know, it's automatically assumed. So if there are men out there who believe they're going to be great fathers, then you should be part of this movement, because we're fighting, you know, this helps you if in the future you want to be have a family, and for some reason, if your wife or your partner doesn't, you want to separate, and you know, you're trying to get your custody of your children, then you need this movement so everybody can have an equal opportunity to have the most basic human needs, because fatherhood is equally as important as motherhood. So yeah, that just sprung into my mind, which I think that doesn't get talked about, and that's the one thing I always have to mention to the males when I'm talking to them, and they're like, oh, it's a female movement. I'm like, so are you saying you're a shit father? Is that what you're saying? Because you are saying that indirectly, that all fathers are shit compared to mums, but that's not the case, because there's brilliant fathers out there. Yeah.
Thank you, Nama. And I see Shreya. Yeah, stage is all yours.
Yeah. Actually, pretty much like everyone has covered like pretty much everything. I just was reminded of a book called Dating Greatly by Bernie Brown, where she talks about vulnerabilities, and you know, she talks about like basically how, you know, all of us people are like put into boxes, like into this boxes of expectations, right? Men are expected to be earning, you know, like earning and bringing in money for the family, and then women are expected to be like that caregiver at home, and she's expected to, like, you know, take care of the family. Those are the expectations that like the gender roles. Like, I'm only talking about binary because, like, you know, all these expectations are like defined based on that, and like anything beyond that is like still like not discussed as much. And like, you know, like all these times, like there are so many expectations based on what gender you are, gender you are. And if women are like to talk about, you know, wanting to pursue their career, like be that career woman, and, you know, like take care of her like financial independence, and women, like they don't really come together at all. Like it's not not an expectation from you as a woman. You are expected to be that caregiver, right? And what she talks about in the book is like, because of all these roles, all these expectations surrounding gender, there's so much vulnerabilities that, you know, like women and men go through. Like women, if they want to pursue their career, they're constantly scared, like of being judged, being you know, being looked at differently from family members. And um, like, if they choose to pursue their career and not be a stay-at-home mom, then they're like, not consider like there are, I don't know, like I don't have a word for it on my mind right now, but they're like not expected to do that. Mothers are not expected to like, be a full-time um, employer, full-time worker as such. And even for men, like for that matter, they're expected to earn. And like not all men want to like be the breadwinner for the family. They not everybody wants to do that. And it's like in the world that we live today, it's not even possible for one person to like be earning for the entire family. Like it is still possible in Nepal, I would say. And that kind of lifestyle is still possible in Nepal, but not. And then that really affects their mental health. That really affects like not being able to do what they want, not being able to be in the space that they want to be, really affects the mental health, like for both men and women for that matter. And then like the expectations for like all these LGBTIQA communities, like they're not even expected to exist. So uh, like they're not even expected to exist in this binary society that we still do. And because of that, there's so much everybody goes through. And I think like feminism for me is like really dismantling those expectations and those predefined roles, so that everybody can like decide for themselves like what they want to do, where they want to be, who they want to be. So yeah, I just wanted to add to that.
Oh, that was excellent, sure. And I think you gave me an idea. I think we can do a different episode on gender role itself, how fucked up it is. Hey, good people. I hope you enjoyed that discussion because it was so fluid. It was such an amazing back and forth between everybody in the panel, and it even gave a little teaser of what I might be working on in the future. Gender roles, wink wink. I hope you guys really enjoyed it because these women are amazing women, and this is not it. There is part 2 of this discussion, because towards the end you will get a chance to hear more on what the ideal world looks for these ladies, as I always ask towards the end of every discussion I do, is what does your ideal good place look like? So that is next week. And I quickly want to also say this might be a last discussion, not this episode. There is a part 2, but this topic will be the last one for a minute, because there's a lot of changes happening in my life, in my personal life, so I might be taking a little break. Don't worry, I will be back with a lot of amazing content. But if you wanna follow me and be up to date with what's going on with the podcast, I'm quite active on Instagram, so follow me on @mygoodplacepod. Or if you have any question, or if you want to become the panelist, email me your information and the topic you're thinking at mygoodplace.pod@gmail.com. I check my email, I respond, and all that good stuff. And if you like what I'm doing, give me a 5-star review on the Apple podcast if you're Apple users, because that helps me go up the chart and exposes me to more people. So if you feel like it, please feel free to do so. And next week, part 2 of Women of Nepal, the Boss Ladies. Thank you all.